So Kirk Cousins has been throwing to Justin Jefferson for 3 years now, right? He's watched him become one of the most elite receivers in football, and this shouldn't come to a surprise because all offseason I said Justin Jefferson, he's going to be the best receiver in the league when it's said and done by this season. And I have a video to back that up. Type in Swaggy Justin Jefferson and go watch it. Jefferson made a catch on a third down and double coverage to spark the offense. An offense that had a 14-3 lead early on, and this simply really couldn't do anything. We've seen the Vikings all season have a good half, sort of a rough half. Remember the game where Kirk Cousins came out in the first half, completed every single pass? The Vikings couldn't have played better, and then the second half, it was like, what happened? Well, in this game, Justin Jefferson, he made a huge catch. Despite having just 2 catches for 37 yards at the time, Jefferson showed up when it mattered. He showed up when he was double covered. And to me, that's the main thing for the Vikings is Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. Obviously, the defense is going to have to do its things. Darius Smith, he showed up. He was huge. He had a couple of sacks. Patrick Peterson turned back the clock. He's 32 years old now. Looked like he was 5 years younger in this game. For the Vikings, though, they have a lot of talent, a lot more talent than people realize, but it's how they mesh. It's their chemistry. There's teams in the NFL that have more talent than the Vikings on paper. It's simple. And that's why many people didn't really expect much from the Vikings. But a big part of why this team is 6-1 is because of their leadership. It's because the veterans teach and watch film and study film and learn with the young players. And that's why the Vikings currently are the 2 seed in the NFC. They've won 5 straight games. And the Packers are 3-5. The Bears are 3-5. The Lions obviously are not very good. They might win like 3 games this season. The Minnesota Vikings have just as good of a chance as anyone else in the NFC. Is it time to call them a Super Bowl contender? I believe it's still early. I know you're 1-5 in a row, you're 6-1. It just probably sounds ridiculous to say that. But I'm honestly, the only team that I'm calling a Super Bowl contender in the NFC right now is the Philadelphia Eagles. They're undefeated, and they just are. It's ridiculous. The Eagles are ridiculous, and they were the ones that beat the Vikings in their one loss. So it's not like I'm being unfair to the Vikings. I'm just making it abundantly clear that the Eagles, they don't have a single weakness on defense. Obviously, offensively, A.J. Brown, he's not quite on Justin Jefferson's level, but he's a tier below it. And they also have a former Heisman winner in Devonta Smith at receiver. Obviously, they have Quez Watkins, Dallas Goedert, an elite offensive line, the best offensive line in the game. So I know I get comments of Vikings fans saying, well, how come you're saying the Eagles are this and we're not? Yeah, I know you guys were on the road in that game. Kirk didn't play well. You weren't really able to get the stops, but it's still early. And the Vikings, they have the Bills coming up. Well, they play the Commanders next week, and then they've got the Bills and the Cowboys. The Vikings, they've got to show up in those games. They've got to show up in those games, and to that point, I'm going to be adding them to my list of a list of one team. The Dallas Cowboys, I do believe, are right there with the Vikings. I think if I were to give you my order right now, I would go number 1, Eagles, 2, Cowboys, 3, Vikings. These 2 teams play in a couple of weeks, so we'll get a good glimpse of that. To me, the biggest thing for the Vikings is obviously guys showing up on defense, but it's also Kirk Cousins. Kirk has been notorious for being known as the quarterback who plays within the system and nothing else. He doesn't take those shots. He doesn't take a risk where you throw in a double coverage. It's like, oh, Justin Jefferson's open somewhere. Let me throw it to him. Kirk, he doesn't really do that. And he's not on the level of Dak Prescott. And Jalen Hurts is honestly a wild card. Jalen Hurts is extremely underrated. He can squat as much as offensive linemen in this league. Obviously, he runs well. His deep ball's improved. I don't want to keep just talking about the Eagles because it's a Vikings video, but I'm being honest with you guys. That is the Vikings' biggest threat. The Cowboys obviously are there too, but I feel like those two, the Eagles and the Cowboys, are going to like contradict each other. I feel like they're going to meet, and then whoever wins is coming out of that game. So the Vikings, they really should be focusing on those 2 teams because no one has been consistent in the NFC this season. Legit, nobody outside of the Eagles and the Cowboys have been consistent. The Vikings, I understand that we're knocking them for potentially not having beaten a team over 500 besides a Tua-less Dolphins team. But at the same time, they're just playing their schedule. When you beat teams you're supposed to, I have a lot of respect for that. I'm a Colts fan, for those of you that didn't know. Did we beat the teams we're supposed to? No, we just lost to the Commanders yesterday at home by a point. So the Vikings, they're winning these games. They're improving. I want to see what they can do in the second half of the season. Because remember, we're already halfway through. And for the Vikings, I didn't see them taking full control of the division. But I certainly did see them being one of the best teams. Simply just because of what O'Connell would bring. As a leader, as an offensive-minded coach, that's something the Vikings needed. A younger, just strictly, how can we be as efficient as possible offensively? And then when you bring in Zadarius Smith, who was asked to do more than anyone else yesterday. I mean, Zadarius Smith was asked directly by Coach O'Connell to get a sack, and he did exactly that. It's pretty remarkable what Smith has brought. He's another veteran who a lot of people were doubting him. It's not just Peterson, Smith, the people were doubting him, and why do you think he left the Packers? They didn't pay him. So he goes over to Minnesota, and he's just an extremely versatile player. I mean, he can come at you guys with his speed, he can bull rush you. He's a great mentor to some of these younger players I mentioned in the beginning of the video. With DeAndre Hopkins having 12 catches for 159 yards and a score, Smith was asked to do even more. Because obviously they couldn't contain him, so you have to get to Murray. Because if you don't, the Vikings are going to lose this game. So guys making the plays they're supposed to, that's what it comes down to. The Vikings, I honestly have them trending upwards. I don't think the Vikings are going to have 2016 where they had this great start and then they just kind of choked. The Vikings are going to be right where they need to be, right? Heading into the second half of the season. I just want to see if the defense can consistently make plays. I want to see if Kirk can keep his head high, especially with some of these primetime games coming up and the Vikings are tested. But outside of that, the Vikings, they're a great team. They're a great team. And that's basically the bottom line is. I mean, I just love what some of these veterans have brought in, like Patrick Peterson, for example. He was extremely motivated after the Cardinals decided not to re-sign him. I mean, he thought he'd play with them for his entire career. He was 30 at the time, and he started getting emails from fans that he would keep on a chair in the locker room. And he said, quote, "That was a mind-boggling thing to me. I was like, what? What did I do to deserve this from a fan?" And you could tell that Peterson was amped up. He was chirping at the opposing sideline. He mocked Kyler Murray with his thumbs back and forth like a joystick. Kyler Murray obviously is a huge Call of Duty fan, and his numbers statistically go down after every single Call of Duty drop. Kyler Murray did not play very well on Sunday. The new Call of Duty just dropped on, what was it, Friday? I want to say at the top of my head. I have it, I honestly don't even remember, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the video. I understand that it might have been a little all over the place. I don't want to just read a script and sound like a robot, right? So I'm trying to give you guys my thoughts. And I know this is only for Vikings fans, and I don't want to just clickbait you or deceive you for more likes and views, right? The Vikings, I don't think they're on the level of the Eagles. I don't even know if they're on the level of the Cowboys. I think they're probably in the same tier. But keep an eye on the Vikings. Keep an eye on the Vikings. They play the Commanders, but then they're playing against two top teams. I mean, arguably the best team in the NFC and arguably the best team in the AFC. Remember, that game where the Eagles beat the Cowboys, it was close in Philadelphia, and Dak didn't play. So I know a lot of people do believe that the Cowboys are the best team. The Cowboys have an elite defense. Obviously, they have elite weapons. They might bring in Odell. I doubt they're going to get Odell. But, I mean, they've got CeeDee Lamb. They've got Noah Brown. They've got Michael Gallup. Dalton Schultz. I mean, I don't know about elite weapons necessarily. I mean, Tony Pollard is a freaking stud. If you guys saw Tony Pollard yesterday with those 3 touchdowns, thank you for my fantasy team. But he is so much better than Zeke, bro. I don't understand why they don't just name him the starter. Oh, because we're paying Zeke. Bro, who cares about who you're paying? Put the player on the field that's going to win you the game, bro. That's what I'm saying. But guys, if you haven't already, make sure you hit the like button for the algorithm. Subscribe for news so you don't miss any of my daily uploads. 95%, yes, 95% of you watching right now are not subscribed to my channel. Without your guys' support, this wouldn't be possible. I'm on the grind to 100K. I know I'm a long ways away, but man, this has been my dream ever since I was a little kid. Everyone doubted me, and most people didn't think I'd be able to do this. And here I am covering teams that I enjoy. The Vikings. I made sure to get this video out first. The first video I've worked on today. I worked on this video for an hour now. Last time I looked at the clock, it was like 3:05. So I've been working on this for at least an hour, getting you guys clips, getting you guys some things to talk about. And keep an eye on the Minnesota Vikings, bro. They look scary. Their defense showed up. They made the plays they were supposed to. They got 2 key stops at the end of this game. The offense, it definitely needs to keep their foot on the gas, but thankfully they have Justin Jefferson for that. And when they do get in the red zone, they're scoring touchdowns and not kicking field goals. It's your boy Swaggy. I'm out.